Okay, so welcome to the first psychology lesson that we are going to have. And the first thing that you need to understand, and by the way, I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars in trading psychology courses, around $3,000, and all of them were super mid, not worth it at all. They work for a month when you're basically motivated, and then it just stopped working because again, you go back to your own human ways, which is normal. But I boiled it down, not those courses. I boiled it down through experience, because every time that I would enter in a loss or every time I would have a win, I would ask myself, I would be like, or every time I would get emotional, I would ask myself, why is it that I'm getting emotional? I don't get it. Why am I so emotional when I take this loss, for example? And I had to go to the roots of it. And I came up with this concept that emotion. So what is emotion? So what is emotion? Well, I came up with this theory and with this, formula that emotion equals reality minus expectation. Can you see that? No, you cannot. So emotion equals reality minus expectation. So what does that mean? Well, it's pretty simple actually. When do you find yourself getting emotional? Usually is when you take a loss, right? But when you take a loss and you already expect the trade to be a loss, all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I knew it. But don't you notice exactly what is happening right there? So let me show you. Let's say that emotion is E. Well, yeah, E equals, let's say that the reality is that you are going to take a minus 1R. But your expectation is that you were going to get a plus 2R. So what is going to be emotion? Emotion is going to be minus 3R. Why? Because you're expecting to get a 2R trade, yet you took minus 1. So not only did you take the loss, but the market also took away the win that you expected to have. So can you understand how emotion comes from the discrepancy, meaning the difference between reality and your expectations? And this is going to be the foundation of trading psychology. It does not have to be more complicated than that. Emotion equals reality minus expectation. So let's talk about how to stop being emotional. Because how to stop being emotional is actually pretty easy. And once again, it came from personal experience. I always thought, like, over this year, I've made great money from trading. And it was weird because it was the year that I had the least amount of emotions. I would take a loss and I would be like, oh, okay, that's fine. I would take a win and I would be like, oh, nice. I would take a break even and I would be like, well, nice. Right? It would never be, fuck this. Like, it happened 1 or 2 times, but it would never be something like, oh my God. Because I would always keep this in check. Now, let me tell you one of the stories that happened this year. And it proves this completely well. And it also proves it on profitable trades. So there was this trade that I took live and that I was managing live. And this trade was basically going to be my biggest trade so far in my trading. So I was doing the calculations in the live stream and I was like, oh my God, if this hits, this is going to be a $40,000 trade. This is going to be amazing. I can't believe it. Amazing. This is going to be an amazing trade. I'm going to have the biggest trade of my trading career. It's going to be $40,000 because this is going to go. So what was my expectation? So my expectation was that I was going to get plus $40,000, right? So my expectation was that I was going to get plus $40,000. There you go. My expectation was that I was going to get plus $40,000. And the trade actually ended up moving a little bit to break even. So I took partials. I took $10,000 worth of partials, so it was a $10,000 trade. So the reality is that it was a $10,000 trade. But notice what is going on here. Reality is that it was a plus $10,000 trade. But my expectation is that it was going to be a plus $40,000 trade. So in my mind, this was what? Minus $30,000. So when that happened, I completely forgot about the fact that I just took a $10,000 win. This is amazing. Like, I would never think that that was going to happen before, yet now it did happen. Yet I was extremely negative about it because my expectation was that it was going to be a $40,000 trade. So can you see how this works? Can you see how emotion equals reality minus expectation? This works with money. This works with R. This works with percentage. This works with anything. You are going to be emotional if what you are expecting does not happen. If the reality is different from expectation, you're either going to be extremely happy or very sad. Because let's say you expect this trade to be minus $10,000, yet it completely reverses and it becomes a winner. All of a sudden you're ecstatic because you expected a loss, yet in reality it was a big win. So can you see, like we can turn this around and you'll see how that happens too. So let's say that the reality is that you take a plus $40,000 win. And your expectation was that you are going to get a minus $10,000 loss. So all of a sudden, what happened is that obviously this turns into a plus. And you actually, in your mind, took a $50,000 win because you were expecting the loss, yet you took the win. So that's when you become ecstatic. That's when you're like, yeah, fuck yeah. Oh my God, this is amazing. This is amazing. It's like, that is bad too, by the way. Having too much positive emotion is bad too. So what is the goal? The goal is to reduce the gap between emotion and reality as much as possible. Why? Because, again, you reduce this, you reduce E. Like, you want this as close to zero as possible. It's never going to be zero. Believe me, it's never going to be zero. When you take a loss, you'll always have some negative emotion. And when you take a win, you're always going to have a little bit of positive emotion. Still happens to me, right? It still happens to me. So if you have a little bit of emotion, don't worry. Like, you're not doing something wrong if you have emotion. We are human creatures, right? But you need to understand that for us as traders, your goal is to reduce that. That's it. That's all you have to do. Just don't get overly cocky when you get a win. Don't get overly unconfident when you take a loss. So how do we reduce this gap? How do we reduce this gap? It's pretty simple. So let's talk about it. How do you reduce this gap? So let's say I enter point number one. I enter in a trade. What is the worst case scenario when you enter in a trade? What is the worst thing that can happen when you enter in a trade? The worst case scenario is you take a -1R. So when you enter in a trade, What you have to do is you have all of your reasons as to why you entered in a trade. We've talked about them. I entered because of this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and this, right? Those are all of the reasons as to why you entered in this trade. Now, that's what you expect. You expect this trade to be a loser. How? I want you to list all of the reasons why this trade is going to be a loser. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, but what about the law of attraction and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're talking about the market. We're not talking about visualizing a win. Visualizing a win is not going to be the difference between you taking a win or you taking a loss. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. But the law of attraction does not work in the markets because the markets do not care about you. The law of attraction works when it's you. When you are looking at yourself, I am a profitable trader. I am a consistently profitable trader. You are going to start behaving as a consistently profitable trader. That's what the law of attraction is. In the market, it does not happen. As soon as you enter any trade, I want you to list all of the reasons why this is going to be a loser. And there's always reasons as to why this trade is going to be a loser. Always reasons. So for example, when I'm entering in a continuation trade, what do? Well, maybe I'm entering in the continuation. I still think the target is going to get hit, but there's the likelihood that the market sweeps the high that I have my stop loss in and then goes down. If my stop loss is in the middle of a fair value gap, of a 1 hour fair value gap or 4 hour fair value gap, I will tell myself there is the possibility that the market closes this fair value gap and I get tagged out and it still goes. So I'm always looking for the reasons as to why my trade is going to be a loser, because I always expect the worst case scenario. You always have to expect the worst case scenario, and that is going to completely remove your emotions from the market, because the worst thing that can happen, you already expected. I enter in a trade. Well, the market might still sweep and then move in my direction, and then I will take a loss. Then if it does it, you're like, oh, okay, I knew it. Right? You always expect the worst case scenario when you enter in a trade. But let's say that you enter in a trade and the trade has not hit take profit yet. So this is your trade. This is your original stop. And now the trade is running around here, right? So what do? You manage your stop loss. So you manage your stop. Well, let's do stop loss #1. And then you manage your stop to stop loss #2. What are you going to expect right now? You're going to expect the worst case scenario. You're going to expect your stop loss getting hit. Why? Because if your stop loss gets hit, even if it's minus 0.5, if that happens, emotion and reality are the same. The market gave you a minus 0.5. Well, sorry, this is not emotion. What am I saying? Expectation. Sorry. So if you always expect the worst case scenario, reality is never going to be different from your expectation. And once again, do not think that this has anything to do with the law of attraction, because it seriously doesn't. So then let's say you trail it to break even. What are you going to expect? You're going to find reasons as to why the trade is going to go to your break even and then go to your TP. As long as your TP is not hit, you expect the market to go to your worst case scenario. As long as your TP is not hit, you expect the market to go to your worst case scenario. That is how you reduce emotions, right? That is the perfect way to reduce emotions. And believe me, there are always reasons as to why the market can go, there's always reasons as to why the market can go towards your stop loss. Always. So you just need to find them. And that does not mean that that makes you unconfident, because you've also listed all of the reasons why the trade is going to play out. So obviously, the reasons why the trade is going to play out needs to completely outweigh the reasons why it's not. But there's always a few reasons as to why the market is not going to play out. Oh, we just swept the swing low. Oh, we just swept London lows. There is a possibility that the market now reverses. That's what you need to do. Okay, we just swept the lows. My trade is at break even. There is the possibility that the market moves to my break even, tabs an order block, for example, and then moves in our direction. It's possible, right? It is possible that that happens. But the number one thing you have to do is reducing your expectations to the worst case scenario, because like that, reality is never going to be different from your expectation. If you do that, even if you don't believe this, always ask yourself, when you take a trade, always ask, and the trade hits stop loss, and you become unconfident, or you get frustrated, ask yourself, what did you expect from this trade? Did you really expect a winner? Why? There's reasons why this trade is going to be a loser. Why didn't you think of those? And it doesn't have to completely take over your mindset. It's just understand there's always reasons as to why your trade is going to be a loser. And if you accept that and you expect that, you're going to completely change your trading forever. Forever. You will look at trading psychology completely different if you accept that this is a fundamental truth. This is a fundamental truth about trading psychology. And anything else is just this repackaged. Trading psychology is just this repackaged. This is the fundamental. This is as fundamental for trading psychology as math is to the world. It's as fundamental knowledge as possible. You need this. The only thing you need for trading psychology is this. This completely changes your trading forever. You will become a good trader when you understand that your expectations dictate your emotions. And when you accept that you are supposed to have worst case scenario as expectations. When you accept that, you will very, very likely, much more likely, become a profitable trader. So surrender to this, and you will see a huge shift in your trading. So that is what emotion is and how to stop being emotional. See you tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. Click right here to watch the next one. And if you are struggling with overtrading, then click right here to check out Trade Blocker. Peace.